Good day. I am Ann Mazakowski, President of the League of Women Voters of Central Delaware County. And on behalf of our league, I want to thank you for joining us for our hot topic. A prescription from the Grassroots: action is the antidote to despair. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization which neither supports or opposes candidates, but does encourage informed and active participation in citizenship, elections, and democracy, and works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. One of the ways we help fulfill our mission to empower voters and defend democracy is to offer presentations to inform the public and voters on important issues. Recently, the League of Women Voters declared that our country is in a constitutional crisis and launched the Unite and Rise 8.5 initiative, which aims to mobilize 8.5 million voters using the power of voter engagement as a cornerstone of our democracy. Unite and Rise 8.5 will showcase the many ways voters can drive change, including through advocacy, mobilization, civic education, and engagement. The initiative is part of the League of Women Voters Women Defend Democracy campaign. Today's presentation serves as an example of this initiative. This hot topic was coordinated through our Civic Education Committee, which provides opportunities for League members and the public to gain practical knowledge about how government functions on a local, state, and national level. The Civic Education Committee intersects with societal issues to enable citizens to practice civic and advocacy skills to be effective participants in the political processes of our democracy. This presentation is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be posted on our YouTube channel and shared with all those that registered for you to share. I also want to thank those that submitted questions, which were shared with our presenter. Marilyn Berberich, a member of the League of Women Voters of Central Delaware County and a member of the Civic Education Committee, will introduce our speaker. Marilyn.
Thank you, Ann. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lisa Goldstein. Dr. Goldstein is a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist living and practicing in Delaware County. As a practicing psychiatrist and grassroots activist, she draws on her experience to identify strategies for surviving and thriving during challenging and uncertain times. By sharing her knowledge and insights, Dr. Goldstein will help us move in the direction of our ultimate goal, to live the life we have as we fight for a better future and a strong and healthy democracy. I know you will find her information, wisdom, and great energy to be reassuring and inspiring. And now I'm going to turn my Zoom rectangle over to Dr. Goldstein.
Okay, and I'm going to attempt the hardest part of all of this. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. I think I did it. Yes, success.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you for having me. And thank you for sharing your lunchtime with me. And I'm so happy to see so many people with your cameras turned on so that we can all do this together. Like you, the thunder is rumbling and the rain is coming down. So if I lose my power and you don't, I will hop right back on from my cell phone and keep going, and we'll cross our fingers. So I'm Lisa Goldstein, and like you, I am a daughter, my mom is there, I see her, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and for the last 8 years, I've been a grassroots activist. I am also a child and adolescent psychiatrist. I spend my professional days talking to people about really hard stuff. After the 2016 election, 2 teenagers, exactly 2, texted me in tears, and they were afraid to go back to school. And that was about it. People didn't really talk with me about politics again in my practice. Occasionally something might pop up, but my practice was here and my grassroots life was here. Something has changed in the last year. since the November election, people talk to me all the time about politics. They invariably start or end a session with, can we talk about this? I don't know how I'm going to get through it. I can't sleep. I'm anxious. I'm angry. I don't know what to do. And I'd say, sure, we can talk, and let me send you something. And then I would go to my usual resources, and they just weren't good enough. So I started writing and writing some more and writing some more. And then the very day I finished writing, and I truly, it was this same day, Marilyn from League of Women Voters called me and said, you wouldn't happen to know someone who can do this talk or be on a panel or help us put this together? And I said, well, so here I am. So thank you for having me. This is the merging of my identities. And I hope to give you today real suggestions that I give to people in my practice. And equally as important, I hope to share with you some of the wisdom that I've learned over all these years from my patients in my practice. Because just like all of us, my patients have experienced some of life's hardest challenges. Chronic illnesses, chronic pain, trauma, loss. And they have taught me, as one young woman put it many years ago, that we live the life we have. And I think that's really an organizing principle of this talk. No matter the circumstances, it is possible to live this life we have with grace and gratitude. So just like when I'm sitting in my office and you're sitting right there across from me, and yes, usually you're sitting on a couch, not laying down though, the only people in the room are you and me. We are the only ones who are asking for help, who can make any change. So this talk is about us. It's not about them out there. It's about us. And all of you know that if we were people who could just retreat into our for most of us, very fortunate lives and stick our heads in the sand, it might seem easier. But for all of us who are here on this rainy Friday, that's just not who we are. So I am going to try to give you a prescription, not medication, but a prescription from the Grassroots. A few skills, consider it a toolkit, a few things to think about, and a few actions you can take so that we can get through this together and live the life we have in this very moment. Let's see if I can actually manage to talk. So I'm going back to the original question. Dr. Goldstein, I'm afraid, I'm worried all the time. What can I do? Tell me, how am I going to get through this? So first, let's talk about fear. Fear. The fear is real because the threat is real. That's not mental illness. That's something we are all sharing together. For the first time in our life, the United States is under threat, a real threat to our democracy, and it's from the inside. You can just ask ChatGPT. A friend told me this, and she or it or whatever ChatGPT is will tell you that this administration is following the Project 2025 playbook. And this is an authoritarian playbook, and they are not playing. So I very much respect that League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. Wanting to protect democracy is a nonpartisan issue. So the threat is real. Take a moment. I'm a psychiatrist. How do you feel when I say the threat is real? Is your heart racing a little? Are you a little uncomfortable or sad or angry? Did you notice that I took a deep breath before I said the threat is real? Fear of a real threat is not mental illness, and you are not alone in what you are feeling. But if you are a woman, and most but not everyone on this call is a woman, if you are a woman or in any other marginalized group or have ever experienced trauma, then that fear is amplifying your physical that earlier trauma is amplifying your response to fear and increasing your anxiety. So maybe you have heard of the fight or flight response. Fight or flight is a biological response. This is actually how I describe it in my office when there's that big scary beast and that defenseless person. I apologize, the graphic's a man, I didn't realize. We have a biological response. Our heart pounds, we breathe fast, maybe our vision narrows, the blood goes away from our stomach. We have a fight or flight reaction. It doesn't feel good, what a panic attack feels like. And we start to say, oh no, it's happening. There's more fear, which fuels it and makes it stronger. Or we try to avoid it. We run away. Every time we fight it, every time we try to run away, that flight, it makes those feelings of panic and anxiety stronger. Now, the interesting thing about fight or flight is it's not just fight or flight, it's also freeze and fawn. So think about the real life reactions you're seeing in people, because this kind of guides how you then respond to people. Some people are fighting. Most of us in the resistance have a lot of that fight in us in the grassroots. Some people, they just don't want to talk about it. They're looking for their second citizenship, so they're ready to flee the country. A lot of people are freezing right now. They are shutting down. How many friends do you have that have said, nope, no news, I can't think about it? And then watch the reaction out there, the people, the institutions that are fawning. How shocked were you to see how fast the big law firms bent the knee and capitulated? Columbia University, ABC News, settling when other people were winning suits against executive orders. That's fawning. These are natural responses to fear and anxiety. So just because the fear is well-founded, it doesn't mean that, well, you just have to live with it. There are things you can do to help you cope with it. And we're going to breathe. I teach this almost every day in my practice, and some of you may roll your eyes a bit, but it really, really changes how your nervous system works. That's a little bit pixelated. There are many ways to breathe. But there are a few common elements about breathing. One is that you always want your exhale, you're letting your air out, to being longer than your inhale. This is so that you don't hyperventilate. You're also going to, and we're going to practice this together, you're going to, if you practice yoga or you're a singer, I saw you there, Catherine, you know how to belly breathe. You're going to expand your belly, your lungs expand, push your diaphragm down, and your belly expands. If you do Pilates, your chest expands. Either one's okay, but we want to take good deep breaths in on the count of 1 and out on the count of 11. And the way you do that is you purse your lips. No one has to really see you doing it. And so right now, I just want everyone I think I did change my slide. Let me see. We're going, and sometimes you can use your phone as a guide. You can trace your finger around it. In on 7, 5, 6, 7, out on 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. One more breath in through your nose on 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out on 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And drop your shoulders down. You may feel they're up around your ears. 8, 9, 10, 11. So as we move through this talk, you are going to want to remember to keep breathing. And because as we talk about how to live with fear and anxiety and uncertainty, you might start to feel anxious and uncomfortable. Breathing is something you can do anywhere, anytime. As I continue to talk, I am going to draw generously, but not with perfect fidelity, from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and dialectical behavior therapy. And just briefly, the idea of CBT is cognitive, how we think, and behavioral, how we behave, influences how we feel. We can change how we think about things. We can change how we behave, and that can influence how we feel. Dialectical behavior therapy is the idea that there's a dialectic, two contradictory things that can be true at the same time. We can accept what is happening now, that this is our reality, and we can work to move forward, to make the world better, to live a good life. It's kind of exactly what you do in therapy. You go as you are now, and you hope to move forward. So I'm going to give you another skill from this world of CBT and DBT. Some of you are familiar with grounding techniques. This is something else that you can do anywhere, anytime. I want you, as you're sitting here, if you're feeling anxious, panicky, overwhelmed, even angry and need to control yourself, look around for 5 things that you can see. This is the easiest one. You're naming them in your head right now. 5 things you can see. 4 things that you can touch. We're using our senses. It could be your chair. It could be the fabric on your shirt. It could be your hair, the table, your cup, anything you can touch. We're going to get quiet for a minute, except for me, because you'll hear my voice. 3 things you can hear. This can sometimes be hard, but 3 things you can hear. I'm going to give you some tips for 2 things you can smell if there's not cooking or car fumes or other things around. The detergent on your shirt. If you know you're someone who gets anxiety and you like perfume, put something you like a little bit on your wrist, or go pick up, there's little roll-ons, lavender scented roll-ons. They're about that big. You can keep them in your purse and roll them on your wrist or behind your ears. Lavender is relaxing. It gives you a scent. And one thing you can taste, a really strong mint, a red hot cinnamon, a spicy ginger candy. This is like a little toolkit that you can keep in your pocket anytime you're worried that you'll be anxious. Oop, I always click one too many. So now we're going to move on to uncertainty. As we all found out last month, right? The markets don't like uncertainty, and neither do human beings. None of us knows exactly what is going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball. There is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. True resilience is being able to deal with and live with that uncertainty. There's a notion called radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is meant to calm our fight or flight reaction. It does not mean doing nothing. In fact, it's just the opposite. We are all familiar in our real life with things that we can't change. Maybe we lost a job, or someone we love has an illness, or we don't know the outcome of a treatment, or what our child is going to choose to do next. Our life is filled with uncertainty and things that we need to be able to live with and accept. Acceptance is not approval, but by choosing to accept and not stay in that fight or flight or fury, we can decrease our own suffering and unhappiness. Again, it doesn't mean doing nothing. It means living this life, the life we have. You may need to take a breath when I say that, because I think that's one of the hardest ideas in this talk, that there are some things that we can accept. And part of radical acceptance is the idea, as you take a breath or two, that we can do more than one time, and more than one thing can be true. So, very funny. I just saw, as I'm going to my next slide, that one of my daughters entered. So the next thing we can do to help us cope is we can be human. No matter what happens, life will go on, and that little baby is my new 2-week-old grandson. Life goes on, no matter what's happening out there. People are still going to fall in love and have babies and celebrate holidays, rescue pets. We're going to share meals or drinks, or root for the Eagles or the Phillies, or just enjoy a sunny day, or even be happy we can stay home on a rainy day. This is what it means to be human. And I don't know if my friend Shelley is out there, but one of the most profound things Shelley shared with me was she had a friend volunteering in a war zone, a devastating war zone. And this friend would send pictures of the kittens she had adopted. And even there, in a situation we can't imagine, she was adopting and caring for these kittens and sending those photos. So we are all human. People often ask, one of the questions I've already seen is, but how do I do this? I feel like I should be marching all the time or protesting. You are not betraying the cause, whatever your cause is, by living your life and celebrating holidays and doing good things with friends or quilting or sleeping or whatever you need to do. Being human is actually part of how we resist authoritarian regimes. Sorry about that. They thrive on division, on our despair and desperation. They count on us giving up. So living with joy is part of resisting. Don't feel guilty about it. You are allowed to make choices and do the things you need to do. Which brings us to positive psychology. So I've talked about CBT and DBT and gave you a few skills. Positive psychology is the scientific study of what makes life worth living. It focuses on strengths and positive experiences. So I would like you to use the chat to put something in the chat that you're grateful for. All of us, even in the hardest of times, all of us have something to be grateful for. And research tells us that gratitude is really, really good for our health. It's good. Gratitude improves our physical health. It improves our mental health. It improves our sleep and empathy. We certainly need more empathy in the world these days. Gratitude reduces aggression, provides more social connection, enhances self-esteem, and improves our mental strength. We have all had those moments when we just realize that we are grateful for something. I cannot multitask beyond my talk and the slides. So I hope there are things going into the chat that you're grateful for. Someone give me a thumbs up. Good. Okay. Read those. It helps to see the good things in people's lives. Information. This is another big question I get all the time. Information right now, the news is coming at us like it's from a fire hose. And so many of us are having trouble sleeping. Often we're ending our day doom scrolling on our phone, just can't stop with more and more news, or watching our favorite talking head on TV. So the news is like caffeine. Most of us can't live without it, but we need to be really careful now about how much we ingest, how much news, how much caffeine we take in, when and where and how. So if you can't sleep, the news, just like your coffee, might be the culprit. So limit your coffee, your tea, your Diet Coke, and your news maybe to the morning hours, or set a timer. So when I said that, someone said, but if I do it in the morning, it ruins my whole day. Then do it later in the day, but not right before bed, not in bed. More about news and information. Truth. Believe in truth. One of the things that's being challenged right now in our country is the very notion that there is truth, that there are facts. And people often ask me who my go-tos are. So my go-tos for truth and facts, and quite honestly, I should just footnote the whole talk from these two, because I don't know anymore. If I didn't read it in writing from one of them, I've heard them speak, and I think I'm talking about many of the things they talk about. Professor Timothy Snyder, formerly of Yale, now in Canada, wrote 20 Lessons on Tyranny in the 20th Century. It's a really short book, so we can all read it. He posts those 20 lessons online. I think it's a really important book about understanding history and where we're coming from. And some of his 20 lessons are my guiding principles in life. Number one, which some of you recognize as relevant, think back to when I talked about fawning, do not obey in advance. Number 10, believe in truth, which is why I have it here. And number 20, be courageous as you can. And that's a complicated statement. Be as courageous as you can. So we'll talk a little more about that, because each of us is able to do different things. Another place I go to for truth and facts is Professor Heather Cox Richardson at Boston College. She writes Letters from an American. For those of you who follow her, I don't know how she writes so much because I can't keep up with every newsletter, but she's literally writing our American history in real time for future historians with a strong reference to the past. This is also another place to go for information. We are incredibly lucky here in Philadelphia. Did you know that the Philadelphia Inquirer is owned by the Lenfest Foundation? It is one of the few major newspapers owned by a nonprofit foundation and not by corporate America. And we have some of the top political writers in the country. So you can subscribe to the Philadelphia Inquirer, read it online at philly.com. You can read Will Bunch there, and you can read about the Eagles and Phillies or restaurants or whatever local news you like to keep up on. But if we want independent journalism, then we're going to need to pay for independent journalism. Take this opportunity now to use the chat. My favorites really don't matter. What matters, I get my favorites from all of you. There are many, many people that you are reading that you swear by. Don't put 12 in the chat. Put someone in the chat that really makes a difference in your life. One I'll give you though. I get the Borowitz report because it's humor and it helps most days to start with a laugh. Another one is Democracy Docket or Democracy Forward. Mark Elias, who's challenging, who's leading so many challenges in the courts. So just throw your favorites in there. Substack has too many authors to count. And then the opposite, unsubscribe. You do not need to pay for and subscribe to news sources that you don't want to give your money to. I recently unsubscribed from the Washington Post. We have divided opinions in my house about whether that's a good move, but for now, that's the truth. And I will tell you that I also, well, I'll save that one for later. So last part of the talk, and let's see how our time is. I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. Let's talk about sorry about that, about taking action. Because action, and I don't want to take credit for this quote, this is actually a Joan Baez quote. So poets should get credit for their words. Action is the antidote to despair is a Joan Baez quote, and very much a motto for a part of how I live my life. I am starting with that dividing action into two parts, the personal and the political. There's a lot of overlap. But the first part of personal action is to take care of yourself. You need to sleep. And so here's something else I share with people all the time in my office as a professional. And I did not mention, I've been zooming through this. There's 4 pages of references and links that I'm sharing with League of Voters. I don't even remember if I did it yet, that they can email out to participants. So you will have links for all of these resources, so you don't have to write it all down or take screenshots. You need to prioritize your sleep and be intentional about it. I saw my husband get on the talk. Right now, he's laughing out loud because another thing I talk about is being human and not perfect. I love to stay up really late and watch bad TV. So this is a personal goal of mine, to be more intentional about my sleep, to prioritize it. If that's difficult for you, some of the ways you support healthy sleep is by limiting your caffeine and your news intake to the right time of day for you. Take a walk during the day. If you can, we all say, well, just like we all say breathe, we say walk. There's real science to support that walking outside is really good for your brain and for your health. So outside if you can. Have a bedtime routine. Remember putting babies to bed and they needed a routine. We need a routine. Give yourself time to unwind. Try not to go from a big meeting or reading all that news of the day to trying to go to sleep. Limit screens near bedtime and in bed. If you have to get in bed with the screen, turn the brightness all the way down. These tips are all part of what's called sleep hygiene. So you will get links to more of an article about sleep hygiene. And if you still need more support, cognitive behavioral therapy, that's CBT, has a special program called CBTI for insomnia. And I provided a link to more information about that. So sleep. The next one, some of this is from Tim Snyder. It's from a lot of places, but part of personal action is that being human. Make eye contact with people and small talk, even with people you don't agree with, because at least they will see you as human. It's harder to be cruel to people that are human. And for those of us who are active in our communities in all kinds of ways, not just political or partisan ways, you know, sometimes they don't think that people of another party or with other beliefs are actually good people. So when we're out there planting flowers and chatting with them, it really makes a difference. Celebrate life, all those occasions I talked about, and really be part of a community. And there are different kinds of communities. Do something with people that you actually genuinely like and respect and look up to. It may be quilting or gardening, or I know the people who plant and hang the flower baskets in Newtown Square, or all kinds of a book club. It might be a faith community. That might be the place that you find your safety and peace and information. But do things with people you like and admire and that you enjoy. You're welcome to put some of those suggestions in the chat. We all have different things like that. And sometimes we forget to go out and look for them. And then finally, volunteer. Do good. Make a difference. Be of service. Be the reason, as Tim Snyder said, be the reason someone believes in good people. And there are so many ways that we can volunteer and be of service. And unfortunately, perhaps there are going to be even more ways in the future. So do be of service. It will not only make you feel better, it will not only help other people, it will make you feel better too. So one of my examples for this, and it took me a little while to fully understand it, we're local here. Alex's Lemonade Stand is a huge local charity, a little girl who had brain cancer, who in the middle of her treatment went outside and had a little girl lemonade stand to raise money for Children's Hospital. She later died. Her parents started an extraordinary charity that has raised lots of money for CHOP, and they called it Alex's Lemonade Stand. Great charity, I always knew that. Think about how we make lemons into lemonade. That's really one of the things we're trying to do, is to make lemons into lemonade, to make a difference and be a force for good. And it helps your mental health too. Most of all, be yourself. Be true to yourself. Articulate your values. Be as courageous as you can. Each of us is at a different stage of life, has different resources, has different responsibilities, is able to do different things. So try not to judge yourself and try not to judge others. Assume that we are each doing the best we can do and that the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be human. Now, political action, and I am speaking to the League of Women Voters, so most of this is nonpartisan, of course. Right now, get out your phone. If you're not on your phone, I don't want you to lose the talk. 5calls.org. That's the numeral 5calls.org. Download 5calls.org as an app or open it on your browser. What 5calls.org does is it connects you right to your members of Congress, your senators, your congressperson, with information about the important issues so that you can easily call them. They would like to say, make your 5 calls every day. I aim for once or twice a week. I'm really proud of myself when I do it. So this makes a difference. Someone in the questions asked, what really makes a difference? The people you vote for, you are their constituents. You have 3 members of Congress. In Pennsylvania, well, I can't tell you who your congressperson is. Mine is Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon. And then, of course, we have Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Their staff logs every phone call, email, letter. Sometimes they answer and they actually talk to you. Sometimes you can go visit them. It matters to them what their constituents think. And there are some really big issues that League of Women Voters can talk to you about, like the SAVE Act, where they really need to know what we think. So this is an action, one thing you can walk away with today, 5calls.org. The next thing, this is what their browser looks like. Calling your congressperson is the most effective way to influence policy. And I think the last time I looked, they had 58 actions on the left. You choose the ones that are yours. Another way to take action is join the League of Women Voters. And actually, you can't actually copy that down, but there's an actual link in the handout I'm giving. It's League of Women Voters of Central Delaware County who asked me to do this talk. With them, you can do all kinds of work for issues that are important to all of us. And you can support other non-partisan things you can do. You can register voters. You can work at the polls. Working at the polls is interesting because although you kind of sign up or get appointed as a member of a party, when you're inside, for anyone who's ever volunteered, worked on election day, you get a lot of good training here in Delaware County. I'm sure you do in Montco too. And it's very collegial in most places on the inside. Remember, we have 2 elections a year, every year. There's the primary and the general election. Our primary election in Pennsylvania is coming up next week. People who vote in the primary are more likely to vote in the general election. And in 2025, we kind of think, is this really important? You are voting for countywide offices, municipal offices, school board members. You know how much has been going on school boards. And in November, we will have a judicial retention race. 3 Supreme Court justices who have been on the bench for 10 years are up for retention. And until this year, this was pretty much an automatic yes vote. They didn't spend much money. They didn't campaign unless they had done something truly atrocious or illegal. They were retained because we would like our judges to be less political. In the wake of Wisconsin, where Elon Musk and his friends spent over $200 million to try to win 1 Supreme Court seat, it is possible that this will be unlike anything we've ever seen before in Pennsylvania, a monumental amount of money that one of the only ways we are going to be able to overcome that and retain our judges who in Pennsylvania are protecting rights that we believe in, that League of Women Voters supports, like voting rights and women's reproductive health care, is to retain these judges. And someone asked in the questions, what's one of the most powerful ways to make a difference? One way is to call your elected members of Congress. Another way is to talk to people, talk to friends, talk to the young person who you run into somewhere. Talk to people. No one's ever heard of a judicial retention race outside of rooms like this. There are grassroots groups. All of these are officially nonpartisan. They have different personalities and do different things. I just picked a small handful that I have been engaged with. I helped found an Indivisible group in late 2016, early 2017. It's called a resistance group. There are many in Delaware County and the surrounding counties right now that are very active, putting on protests, all kinds of different activities. You can find for Indivisible and Red, Wine, and Blue and League of Women Voters, you can go to the national website and put your zip code in and find the groups near you. Red, Wine, and Blue, definitely nonpartisan, like League of Women Voters is about issues. They have some huge nationwide Zooms with tens of thousands of people joining and incredible speakers like Mallory McMorrow and Heather Cox Richardson, and have local actions about how to talk to It's really other suburban women was who the original target audience was. Many of you are familiar with Turn PA Blue, and I'm putting a plug in for any healthcare people out there, Physicians for a Healthy Pennsylvania. There are so many important healthcare issues. Money Talks is not what you think is a way of taking political action. Spend your money on things you believe in. I have stopped shopping at Whole Foods. Same reason as not subscribing to the Washington Post. I would rather not support Jeff Bezos. Not 100%, because sometimes there's something I need there. So again, not perfect, but I do the best I can do. Spend your money on small local businesses. Support who you want to support. Protest is not a criminal activity. Join a protest. It's something like if 3% of the population engages in protest, that is how you prevent a government from becoming authoritarian. Think about 3%. There's a reason so many of the grassroots groups are out there protesting. Never repeat lies. Nothing makes my head explode more than when I hear one of our incredible elected officials start with, but he said X, and then refute it. You want to start with the truth and then tell us what the bad guys are doing. So if you're someone like me who talks a lot, get some training in messaging. Talk about issues. These are not dirty words. It is not a bad thing to be informed about politics and do what you do best. I like to talk. I actually also like to open my home. It doesn't have to all be cleaned up. You can wear your shoes and bring your kids and your dog, and my friends bring food. I like to invite people into my home, but we each have something different. Do what you like to do what you're good at, and remember that we are all volunteers. So don't wait to be asked. If you have skills, if you have something you want to do, then help do it. Let's see. Stay safe. 3 really specific actions you can take. You have a portal for your Social Security account. Go to that portal, sign in. My husband actually had to go to the post office to validate his ID so that he could sign in. He did it. It was quick and easy. Download your information. Because that account, that Social Security portal, shows the years you've worked, the dollars you've paid in, and your payment schedule at different ages. Just in case those somehow loses our information or it changes, you should have a hard copy. Freeze your credit. In the resources I'm giving you, NerdWallet has a step-by-step how to freeze your credit on all 3 credit bureaus. It's easy, and it's easy to undo temporarily. With all the different people and ways that our information is changing out there, this is one way you can protect yourself. And then if your passport isn't current, go get your current passport. You can do it mostly through the mail. We did ours recently. Family members have done it. It's not taking a long time to get a new passport if you already have one within a certain number of years. Real ID is not the law, is now the law of the land. The reason this is so important is because of something called the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is specifically going to disenfranchise millions of married women who changed their name when they got married. If you do not have a passport, your birth certificate likely does not match the name on all of your other documentation because you changed your name. There are going to be significant barriers to establishing that you are who you are and able to vote. So people like League of Women Voters and 5 Calls and all of these groups, as that comes to a vote in the Senate, we're really going to want you to keep calling your senators. It's no sure thing what Senators McCormick or Fetterman will do about this. So, these are just a few things to help you feel like you're doing something to keep yourself safe. If what I'm talking about today leaves you feeling like, yeah, but I need more than this, this is not medical care. This is a grassroots activist who happens to be a psychiatrist talking to a large group. If you need more help than what I'm talking about today, trust yourself. You know what you need. Call your doctor, your family doctor, or whoever you use, or try your employee assistance program, your EAP. and talk to someone. So action is the antidote to despair. I'm not going to read my other wonderful quotes because there's so little time left for very many questions. And never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, which is why all of you are here. So thank you. Oh, I want to make sure, as you try to sort through what questions to give me in the chat, there were a few that I got before I started. I think I've talked about anger and fight or flight and ways that League of Women Voters and all of us can defend democracy and how we need to live our life, and it's okay to not protest 24/7. And I have a 4-page resource list I'm going to send, but I highlighted the hardest question I found is I have a family member who lives in the Fox information silo, and I'm just so furious with her all the time. So many people are having that experience with family or friends. And this is one of those really complicated questions that you need to have people you trust, really trust, and have your best interest at heart to talk to about how to balance all of your feelings and thoughts about this. But I tend to lean towards being generous and believing that people are doing the best they can, and really, really knowing that information is incredibly siloed. According to Heather Cox Richardson, the biggest predictor of who you voted for in 2024 was where you got your information. If you read any newspaper, including the Wall Street Journal, you were more likely to vote for Kamala Harris. So we know that certain people, most people are not getting information. They're not reading newspapers. It's something like only 9 or 10% of people read a newspaper every day, and only 30% look at it once a week. So it's not newspapers. They're not watching MSNBC. They're getting it from a friend, from social media, not at all. I recently met someone who did not know what January 6th was. So if all you watch is Fox News all day, then of course that's what you believe. And then you need to make decisions about what's important in your life. Is a loved one sick? Are there important life events happening that it wouldn't be the same without your family member there? I again err towards family is family. I also believe that there are very important moral and ethical questions that we're all facing now about what's happening in the world. So I think I'm giving you permission to maintain, especially family relationships, even when we can't believe that they can believe what they can believe. Just with how active I am, I'm not sure I have that many friends left on the other side. So these are very difficult personal questions. How are we going to ask me a few questions in the remaining minutes?
Do you want to stop sharing your presentation?
I would love to. Thank you
Have
for
a
the
discussion.
There you go.
So maybe we can look at everybody, and if you have a question, you can raise your hand. There's a raise your hand on the bottom row there. I have a zillion questions.
And are there a zillion? Oh my God, there's 78 things in the chat. So someone from League of Women Voters save this chat so that we can summarize it and send it out when we send out the resources with all the people that people like to read and the things they're grateful for. Sometimes the gratitude, I've done one of those images. We're different words or different sizes depending on how often they come up. Just a thought there. I can't possibly. Looking at questions. Someone asked me a question. Who has? Oh, I love seeing the things people are grateful for.
Sherry has a question. Do you want to unmute yourself, Sherry?
Ah,
Hi.
Sherry.
Hey,
from
Lisa.
Red, Wine, and Blue. Hi,
I
Sherry.
love this. This has been a wonderful event. I'm
Thank
off
you.
camera because I look horrible this morning, just getting back from a political retreat. But my question, especially with your specialty in children, I have a granddaughter who is only in second grade who has been suddenly asking me political questions of, is it true they're doing this? Are they going to come to my school and take my friends away? And so she's old enough to be seeing snippets in the news, but certainly not old enough to comprehend the full implication. How do you suggest we really talk to children at different ages while being honest with them, but not instilling more fear?
What a great question, Sherry. Thank you. I think I'm going to fall back on the advice my pediatrician gave me 30 years ago about how we talk to children about sex and where babies come from, which is that we answer what they ask factually at their developmental level, but not more. We do want to protect our youngest kids, especially. We don't want them afraid all the time. But if they ask us a question, we want to give a developmentally appropriate, honest answer. And we really want to assure them, for most of us on this call, we are safe. We know a lot of people who are not safe. And then we also can model for our children and bring our children, our grandchildren with us when we try to do some things that make a difference in a positive way. So that notion of service is so important for our own well-being, and that our children engage with us early in that, not just raising money. Does that help a little bit, Sherry?
That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy, your hand's up. Oh, you're muted though.
That doesn't happen very often.
You and me both.
So do you have any reference or resources or references for dealing, how to diffuse situations? Because we're finding that the crazies are showing up. This didn't happen back in, the first Trump administration. They kind of left us alone to do our thing. But when we have these events now, well, you were at the Hands Off, right? And it was a couple back in the, and my fear is that our people are going to try to engage, and it's going to have a chain reaction. So are there any resources or reference materials that we could get?
So a couple thoughts about that. There are, the last time I looked, there were 70 people on this talk. There's almost 50 now. We are all people now who shouldn't be quiet bystanders in terms of talking to each other and saying, it's okay, you can walk away, come with me, put your arm around someone. No, we're really not supposed to engage. We shouldn't just, I'm not saying we should put ourselves at risk and put ourselves in the middle, but we can help de-escalate by interacting with our own people, is one thought. The second is, I was at the Hands Off rally. The police were wonderful. They stayed very close. They did not provoke anyone in any way. So people should know that when, I'll say we, but when people like Peggy and so many people on this call organize rallies and events, they get permits, they talk to the police in advance, they're mindful of the location so that it's not too crowded. And I know you're up at the microphone and would do your best from there to keep things under control. I don't think Betsy Kalish is on the call, but Jill, what's the name of the Delaware County, the community policing force? Do you know the name that Betsy's involved with?
The Citizens Police Academy?
There's a Delaware County Citizens Police Academy, and they did some trainings before the last election for how to deal with any threats. I don't know specifically, but I can find out about if they have any programs for de-escalation. I know the really big rallies always do training about de-escalation. And I purposely did not put the tips for how to stay safe at a rally in this talk because I didn't want to scare people. But if you are going to a big rally where we expect thousands of people, Google online. Lots of organizations have tips about what to do with your ID and your phone and how to dress and what to carry. And, I'm looking around at my peers here. We're not going to be necessarily the people right on the front line of that conflict. But so the Citizens Police Academy, let's find out what they have, Peggy.
Okay. I'm Googling them now.
And Joan, I see you put in the comments that you were there and saw most people just ignored them and it was fine. I agree. I walked around them several times and people were ignoring them. I also see people have put in the chat the Pride Parade in media on June 7th. There are certain places where if we register voters, we are much more likely to be registering voters who share our values and support the same issues we support. So voter registration, you know, is of course anyone who approaches you when you're registering voters is allowed to register to vote, but think about where you vote, where you do that, and the communities that you can support. And I also see, Peggy, a big event coming on June 14th. The resistance groups, the grassroots now really collaborate across these events. And there's different leaders for different events. And very often League of Women Voters, you're there because of the issues that you support. They're not about candidates. They are about issues. Yes, Kathy. Nope. Who is that? Someone has their hand up.
It's Anne.
Oh, hi, Anne.
Hi.
I see.
Just wanted to share that the League of Women Voters also has tips on how to act in protest situations. So we're going to keep sharing that out even more now. So,
Dr. Beth Kalish, Betsy's mom.
I just put it in the chat.
You just put it in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Jodine, thank you. You put that in the chat. Yes. You're muted, Beth. You have to unmute yourself. Click the microphone at the bottom. And someone on a phone is unmuted.
Yeah, I keep muting that person and they keep unmuting themselves.
Beth, you're still muted. At the bottom left of your screen, click on the microphone.
Am I on?
Now you're unmuted.
Okay, good.
Hi, Lisa.
Thank you
question,
so much. But I wanted to make an action comment about a friend who is a therapist who has recently passed away, unfortunately. But she had a wonderful project. She lived in Kansas, and she ordered badges that said the power of kindness. And she wore those badges all the time. And if somebody asked her about it, she said, I'm going to give you one. And she would take it off and give it to the person who has asked her a question about it. And she created a whole movement around those badges. And I was wondering if the League of Women Voters would be interested in doing something like that, because this woman is no longer living and that project is gone. But it was so marvelous in the Midwest. And this went back to the beginning of Trump's first term and has now disappeared. I thought it was a wonderful action attitude.
That does sound like a wonderful program, Beth, and speaks back to how things like gratitude and kindness increase empathy.
Yes.
Empathy is very much the opposite of grievance, and so much now in the world is being driven by grievance.
Betsy, this is Peg, and we actually have somebody who makes and donates buttons to our events because we're trying to raise money for a sound system. So can you put the actual text in the chat? Because I'd like to give that to her and have her make some of those up.
Okay, it was simply the power of kindness was on the badge, nothing else. Nonpartisan, but very powerful message.
Thanks.
Just wrote it there. There you go. I'm very sensitive to being timely. It's 1:02. I'm not in a hurry, but I very much appreciate you all taking an hour out of your day. We made it through the thunder and lightning without losing power. And so many people on this call are doing so many amazing things. And one of the things that has helped me the most over the last 8 years is the friendship of all of you. So if you're not already deeply engaged, I encourage you to get connected to someone, some group out there.
So Lisa, what I'd like to do is we're going to close the recording. And then if people want to stay on for a little bit afterwards, if you're willing to do that, that's great. But again, you're right. We try to also be timely in our programs. So I want to thank you for sharing your expertise. It was great. We also want to thank everybody who registered for this presentation. We had almost 100 people register. So those people, even if they couldn't come in, will get the link to the recording and to the resources that you're going to be sharing. And we hope that those people will turn around and share with other people. It's just a great way to spread these kinds of positive messages for the future. And we hope you come to our events calendar and look at what we're doing in the future. We are going to be doing, as we did last year, a lot of voter information sessions out and about in the communities. And last year we did 50. We probably will go above that this year. We're not sure, but we already have this year 23 new members. Last year we had 30, and this year we already have 23. So if people want to join the league, we hope they do. So thank you again, and we're going to end the recording.